It didn't explode on social media. There was no press release, no scandalous headline screaming it into the algorithm. That's what makes this story so dangerous, because when power really turns against you, it doesn't shout, it goes quiet. And Meghan Markle just found out the hard way that silence can be louder than any rejection she's ever faced. One day, your name opens doors. The next, it's quietly erased from the list. No drama, no explanation, just absence. And in the luxury world, absence is a verdict. Behind closed doors in Paris, Balenciaga made a decision that sent shockwaves through fashion circles, not because it was announced, but because it wasn't. Meghan wasn't disinvited. She simply stopped being expected. No front row seat, no backstage whispers, no private fittings, no brand access at all. That kind of cutoff isn't accidental. That's institutional frost. Insiders describe it as a clean break, not emotional, strategic, surgical. The brand didn't want the risk anymore. Not the clothes, not the optics, not the chaos that follows her like a weather system. Executives reportedly used a phrase that has been circulating quietly for months now: chaos by proximity. Wherever Meghan appears, the focus shifts. The narrative stops being about the product and becomes about her. Every time. And for a house like Balenciaga, still walking carefully after its own past controversies, that's unacceptable. They don't need another uncontrolled storm. They need predictability, control, silence. Meghan brings none of that. Inside fashion, the warning signs didn't start in Paris. They started earlier, further east, in places that usually roll out the red carpet for Western prestige. Dubai. Nothing. No warmth. No symbolic welcome. No visible interest. Then Saudi Arabia, another market known for carefully calculated global associations, also stayed cold. No invitations. No strategic appearances. No alignment. In elite circles, silence is not neutral. It's data. Fashion houses talk. Stylists talk. PR firms exchange risk assessments. When one market pulls back, others start asking why. When two do it, the conversation changes tone. By the time Paris insiders were weighing Meghan's relevance, the decision had already been made for them. The cost-benefit math no longer worked. Whatever attention Meghan once brought now came bundled with too much baggage. Too many headlines. Too much backlash, too much unpredictability. Prestige had turned into liability. Luxury doesn't chase noise, it avoids it. And then came Monaco. Not Hollywood loud, not New York messy. Monaco operates on rules so quiet they're almost invisible, until you break one. According to multiple retail sources, Meghan attempted to access a Balenciaga boutique inside a high-end mega mall. The expectation? Private handling. Closed doors. Special treatment. That's standard protocol for figures of her former status. Former being the key word. Instead, she was met with something far more devastating than confrontation. A polite refusal. No appointment. No accommodation. No exceptions. Just a calm, professional boundary. That moment mattered more than any red carpet snub because it confirmed something undeniable. This wasn't about scheduling. It wasn't about misunderstanding. It was policy, consistent across regions. Final. Those close to Meghan say the reaction afterward wasn't public rage, it was internal fury, because that refusal stripped away the last layer of plausible deniability. You can explain away rumors, you can spin a missed invite, you can dismiss anonymous chatter, but when a luxury brand enforces the same boundary everywhere, the message is unmistakable. You're out. This is already being whispered as the end of an era. Meghan's early post-royal visibility was fueled by access. Designers wanted her photograph, brands wanted the association. She symbolized relevance, disruption, modern royalty energy. That currency is now depreciated fast. What once looked like influence now looks like risk. And once that perception flips inside elite systems, it spreads like a contagion. Fashion was just the first domino. Entertainment insiders quietly admit that projects once described as in talks have gone nowhere. Not canceled, stalled. Meetings delayed. Emails unanswered. Interest evaporated without explanation. The same silent distancing playing out across industries. Nobody wants to be the next brand accused of platforming controversy. Nobody wants to absorb the backlash. And while all of this is happening in public-facing worlds, something far more serious appears to be tightening behind the scenes. Advisors familiar with the situation describe growing scrutiny in the United States that is no longer speculative. It's procedural, layered, incremental, compliance questions, organizational structures under review, funding pathways examined with fresh fresh eyes. Experts said this is how pressure really builds, slowly, invisibly, until suddenly it's unavoidable. That's why some insiders are calling this the anti-Meghan year, not because of one scandal, but because of accumulation. Too many burned bridges, too many institutions independently deciding that association isn't worth the trouble anymore. That kind of consensus doesn't form overnight. It forms when patterns repeat. And now, the personal fracture is becoming impossible to ignore. According to people close to the couple, Prince Harry has begun to subtly reposition himself. Not dramatically, not in a way that sparks headlines, but enough that insiders have noticed. Fewer joint appearances, more solo positioning, a shift in tone that feels cautious, defensive. Those who know him say his priorities have changed. He's no longer chasing relevance. He's trying to contain damage. Harry understands something Meghan seems unwilling to accept. Institutions have long memories, and the ones he publicly turned his back on do not reopen doors quietly. Attempts to reestablish channels in the UK have reportedly gone nowhere. Palace responses remain cold, consistent, final. Trust is gone. Access is gone. From their perspective, he made his choice. Repeatedly, loudly. There is no appetite to undo it now. That reality is reportedly creating tension, because while Meghan's strategy remains aggressive, push forward, force relevance, challenge institutions, Harry's appears cautious. Reduce exposure, signal restraint, preserve what little legacy remains. Those strategies cannot coexist forever. And the irony is brutal. Meghan rose through elite systems, fashion, media, royalty, and is now being undone by those same systems exercising their real power. Not confrontation, not debate, exclusion. Silence. No front rows, no private rooms, no access. And in elite spaces, absence isn't just embarrassing, it's fatal. What makes this moment different isn't just rejection, it's coordination without coordination. No memo, no secret meeting, no single villain to point at. Just institutions across different worlds, fashion, entertainment, finance, royalty, all reaching the same conclusion at roughly the same time. That's not coincidence. That's consensus forming in real time. And consensus is the most dangerous force in elite circles. Luxury brands don't moralize. They don't get emotional. They calculate. They run scenarios. They ask one brutal question: does this person still deliver upside without destabilizing everything around them? For years, Meghan did. Attention, headlines, relevance, but now that equation has flipped. The attention no longer elevates the brand. It swallows it. And once that happens, the decision is automatic. Silence. No announcements, no public condemnation. Just distance. Because distance is clean. Distance can't be argued with. Distance doesn't invite lawsuits, it simply removes oxygen. Every closed door reinforces the next. One refusal becomes confirmation for another gatekeeper that stepping back was the correct move. This is how reputational collapse actually happens. Not in one explosive scandal, but in a slow tightening of space. Fewer invitations, fewer allies, fewer rooms willing to take the risk. For years, defenders insisted the criticism was driven by bias, hostility, unfair scrutiny. But brands don't operate on feelings. They operate on outcomes. And the outcome is now undeniable. Association with Meghan doesn't bring stability. It brings turbulence. And turbulence is lethal in industries built on control. As 2026 unfolds, the trajectory is becoming impossible to spin. This isn't a pause. This isn't a reset. This is contraction. Influence shrinking. Access narrowing. Visibility thinning. The kind of slide that personal branding cannot reverse, no matter how aggressively it's pushed. Behind the scenes, insiders say the panic isn't loud, it's logistical, scrambling to reposition, to reframe, to manufacture relevance where organic access has evaporated. But forced relevance reads differently. It looks desperate, and desperation is another red flag in elite spaces. Meanwhile, Harry's quiet recalibration continues. Those close to him describe a man increasingly aware that the ground beneath them is unstable. He's seen how fast doors can close. He understands that the institutions he once dismissed are not emotional, they are patient, and they don't forget. Attempts to soften the narrative, to signal regret, to reintroduce himself as separate from the chaos have so far yielded nothing. The palace position remains unchanged. The message is unspoken but clear. What's done is is done. That reality has reportedly deepened the internal divide. Meghan's approach remains confrontational. Push harder, speak louder, force the spotlight back. Harry's is containment, reduce exposure, avoid provocation, preserve what can still be salvaged. That difference isn't philosophical, it's existential. Observers said the tension isn't about love or loyalty, it's about survival. Two people reacting to the same collapse in opposite ways. One trying to fight the tide, the other trying not to drown. And tides don't negotiate. What's most striking is how little sympathy exists inside elite systems now. Not hostility, indifference, the most dangerous response of all. Because indifference means you're no longer worth managing. You're simply managed out. Fashion has already moved on. New faces, new narratives. Entertainment is following quietly. Legal scrutiny continues its slow tightening, methodical and procedural. No drama, no leaks, just pressure accumulating in the background. The silence surrounding Meghan is growing louder by the day. And silence is not neutral. Silence is a message. It says you are no longer necessary, no longer useful, no longer protected by the illusion of relevance. This isn't about one boutique in Monaco. It's not about one brand in Paris. It's about power shifting away. And power, once gone, doesn't return because someone demands it. It returns only if institutions see value again. Right now, they don't. What we're watching isn't a fall from grace. Grace implies forgiveness. This is erasure, the slow removal from systems that once elevated her, the quiet rewriting of guest lists, the recalibration of risk models, the collective decision to step back and let gravity do the rest. Meghan's greatest strength was once her ability to dominate the narrative, but narratives require platforms, and platforms require permission. That permission is being revoked, one silent decision at a time. Harry sees the writing on the wall. Whether he can act on it remains the open question, because bridges burned in public are rarely rebuilt in private, and institutions that feel betrayed do not reward late regret. The palace door is closed, permanently. Meghan, meanwhile, appears determined to push forward regardless, to challenge the tide head-on, to force relevance through sheer visibility. But visibility without access is noise, and noise doesn't convert into power. This is how the end actually looks. Not explosive, not cinematic, just smaller rooms, quieter phones, fewer names willing to take the call. The systems that once lifted her are now doing what they do best, protecting themselves. And they've decided she's no longer worth the risk. She's no longer worth the risk. She's no longer worth the risk. She's no...